Hello, it's Sandy Peckinpah, and I am back joining you on this Monday afternoon. I wanted to share some things with you because I've been dying to get back in front of the camera and talk to you. I've had so many wonderful comments from people. Kathleen, welcome. I've had so many wonderful comments from people who have been seeing my videos, and boy, that really inspires me to keep going. You know, I started on Periscope probably in September, October of 2015. And that started me broadcasting. And since then, I have been doing probably, a show 3 to 4 times a week for years. And now I've done over 350, probably 400 shows by now. But I decided to switch over to Facebook Live because I'm getting so much more expansion in my audience, and you're all my friends, and I love that. And I love including new people, and Dawn! Dawn is my favorite mother-in-law. And so I am loving that you're all joining me today, and I want to talk about something that a lot of people ask me about, and that is beliefs and our mindset. And so we're going to be talking about something that really sparked a conversation because I saw it on Game of Thrones. And hey, Judy, I'm so glad you're here. If any of you have, Mary, my dear, my heart is with you, my friend. Welcome. Leslie, you're back from traveling, or maybe you're traveling and watching Facebook Live right now. Oh boy, this is really fun. So I can only see a little bit of the names coming on because my sight isn't that good without glasses. But if I wear glasses on Facebook, guess what happens? It reflects, and then I feel like you can't see me. And I want to feel connected to you. So here's the story. I was watching Game of Thrones, and Daenerys, who is also Khaleesi, the dragon mother, she was standing before thousands and thousands of slaves, and she was about to release them. And when she released them, they refused. They didn't want to be released. And she said people loved their chains. They learned to love their chains. And that sparked me thinking about the chains that we have internally, the chains in our belief system, because they were so comfortable being in that environment where they were slaves. That was all they knew, that it was very difficult for them to think about being free. And so Game of Thrones sparked so many ideas in me. I love that show. And by the way, did anybody see the ending last night? The end of this season, and now I have to wait a whole year for it to come back. And you know, I read that that the average cost of one episode of Game of Thrones is like $6 million. And my gosh, it looks like it, doesn't it? When the ice wall came down yesterday, it was unbelievable. So it happens to be one of my favorite shows, so I get a lot of ideas. And let me tell you, make no mistake, those writers are brilliant. Having come from the television industry, and my God, working on so many scripts with my late husband, I can tell you that to write a script as brilliantly as they do is miraculous. It is absolutely miraculous. And my other reason for loving it so much is because George R.R. Martin, who created Game of Thrones, is a friend of mine. He worked with my husband on Beauty and the Beast for CBS. And so I'm really proud of, he was a great writer before he ever even joined the CBS as a writer. The Beauty and the Beast show in 1989. Before he ever joined that, he was a writer in his own right, a great writer. And he was such a huge asset to the show Beauty and the Beast. And then he also worked on Sliders with my husband after that. But he wrote Game of Thrones, and let me tell you, he has a creative spirit that is unbridled. He can think of anything and make it magic. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because when I watched Game of Thrones and I realized how there are no restrictions on the imagination of the writers creating this show, that it explodes to endless possibilities. And that's what I want to share with you today, a technique that I learned to start breaking the chains in my own life of my own restricting beliefs. So your beliefs could actually be holding you hostage and you don't even know it. Are you hitting the glass ceiling? What is that glass ceiling in your life? Maybe it's a salary. Maybe it's an achievement in your job or in your creative career. I know there was a time I had written 3 books, and at the point that I wrote my 3rd book, I thought I could never do better than this. I could never write another book. And, I've written 3 great books and I'm really proud of them. How could I do this again? I almost hit that glass ceiling 2 weeks ago. I published, Huffington Post published one of my articles, and I got so many views, and also Thrive Global did. I got so many views on this blog that I thought, how can I ever write a blog that's going to be as good as this one? And it stifled me for 2 weeks. And that was why I revisited this concept about beliefs and how we restrict ourselves and how to untangle those beliefs. And so actually that's my next article for Huffington Post that I'm writing right now. So when you picture a chain and it restricts you, or when a chain is on a door, it prevents you from going through, or on a gate, you can't drive through. Chains do that in your life too. And you may not see them, but they are there because they're mental chains. And chains are byproducts of beliefs that we've created either in our past life or in our present life. And when you have those chains of restriction, what happens is you hit the glass ceiling on your career and you say, wow, this is about as good as it's going to get. So how do you break that chain? How do you break that cycle of belief that you can't go any further? Well, there are all kinds of emotional and mental chains that we put on our lives. And one of them is possibly staying depressed, where you wake up and you can't get out of it, or you stay in a relationship that doesn't feel good. Or if, something prevents you from thinking that you could ever find love again in your life or other friendships, it holds you hostage. If you've had a great loss or a great disappointment, feelings of grief can hold you back. And you may think that's your new way of life. But I promise you, it's not. It is not. Other chains might be someone who stays in school because they're so good at being in school, they're afraid to graduate. I shared with you in the beginning of this conversation that I actually had that feeling when I wrote my last article that was published on Huffington Post. I thought, how can it get any better than this? I'm getting so many comments and so much feedback and so many views. What happens if my next article isn't as good? It's stifling. Every time you have a thought that you know something that you should be doing, and there's that little voice in the back of your mind that stops you, that's a chain. And people learn to love their chains. As Khaleesi said in Game of Thrones, one of my great lines from that show, and I've used it over and over in my writing because it's true. People learn to love their chains. Now, for example, maybe you've been saying, oh, I got to lose 5 pounds. Well, exactly when is that going to happen? Exactly when? If you keep putting that off in the future, you have a chain around the mentality of that concept, of you not being able to achieve it. So you are so afraid of trying because you're so afraid of failure. And so another thing that people do is they say, oh, I should start exercising. Well, there's another should in life. Exactly when? A lot of people have fear around money. And I know I did. I had great fear. And the biggest thing that kept me chained to my fear was my beliefs and my mindset around it. Because I grew up with a crazy mindset about money. I remember and this is, let me clarify this. This is not necessarily the fault of my youth and how I was raised. This was the fault of a lifetime, a generation coming off of the Great Depression, that my parents were always afraid that they wouldn't have enough money. And so anytime we asked for anything, there was always the reaction, oh, you're going to keep me in the poorhouse, or you think money grows on trees, or, and those were things that my parents always provided for us. They always made sure that we had what we needed. And yet those comments came from their parents. And it started to make me think that maybe I should be afraid of money at all times. And so I had a chain around money. My belief was that money didn't come easily, that money could be lost easily or spent easily. And so how that worked for me is that I'm very resourceful. I try to always have savings and have something to fall back on. I invest correctly, and I'm not frivolous. I don't spend tons of money on clothes, or, I make things last. And so those kinds of things, that belief helped me. But where did it hurt me? Well, it hurts me in the middle of the night when I worry about money. And I remember seeing Will Smith on Oprah Winfrey being interviewed. And Oprah said to Will, you're a famous movie star now. You're so rich. You have many homes. And by the way, I used to see him all the time because I lived in Westlake Village, and so did he. He was always the most generous person. When we'd run into him, we would run into him at Barnes & Noble. And of course, my kids were in awe, so they'd want to go up to him and talk to him. He was always so generous. He's one of the kindest actors I know. And yet, when he was being interviewed on Oprah, she said, so does it feel good to be rich? And he said, no, I'm terrified. You see, he had a chain around money. And Oprah said, Will, why would you say that? And he said, it's the way I was raised. My father always felt like money was elusive, that I could lose it at any time. And so even today, with the money that I make as an entertainer, I fall asleep at night worrying about money. Now, if Will Smith worries about money, then money isn't the issue. There's not an amount in the bank that can make Will Smith feel safe. What would make Will Smith feel safe is reframing the belief around money. And so you can do something like this. Thank you for the thumbs up. That's so true, isn't it? There's not an amount of money in the bank that can make you feel safe. Only your beliefs can make you feel safe. And so, do I have to worry about money? Is it true? No. You will always have enough money because you'll always have ideas. Ideas are what give you income. And unless you give up, you will always have money. And someone once told me, money rolls in and rolls out. It has cycles. Money has cycles just like life has cycles. Sometimes you'll have a lot, and sometimes you won't have so much, but you will always have ideas and never run out of ideas for ways to make money. And so when you kick that into gear, you start creating a new belief. And my new belief, when I started addressing my money fears, is that I say to myself, whenever I start to have fears, I have more than enough money to have a wonderful life. It comes easily to me because ideas come easily to me. I like working. I have a good work ethic. Therefore, I'm rewarded in my life with money. And so, what did I just do there? I gave myself an opportunity to break the chain of money fear. Thank you for the thumbs up. So here's another belief. Let's talk about another belief that people might have. Another one is, I can't make friends easily. Is that true? Is it easier not to have friends? When did you start believing that you didn't have friends? Were you rejected in high school? Did somebody make you feel bad, like you weren't a good friend? If you've wrapped yourself in a chain of fear around making friends, then that holds you hostage, and that's another chain. You can say that about clients. I'm not good at finding clients. Well, if you have that belief, then you are held hostage. You have a chain around that idea. Is it easier to not make friends or not have clients? Yes. It's easier to not have friends and not have clients because that's the chain of belief that you have given yourself. But can you write a statement of belief that dismisses it? You no longer have need for that belief. And so if you dismiss that belief or discharge it and write a new belief, that puts your new belief in motion and you open yourself to an avenue. And here's how that belief might go. Something like this. I make friends easily. Or I have clients that come to me easily. I attract clients or friends. I attract people that share my interests or need my services. It's enjoyable spending time with them. And then close your eyes and imagine yourself actually how you feel when you make those statements. It feels good. Try it. It really feels good. And so remember, all things come from thoughts. All beliefs come from things that you learned in your past, and you put a chain around it. And as Khaleesi said in Game of Thrones, people learn to love their chains. But guess what? Chains hold you back. Chains keep you small. Start looking at where they came from. What started the first moment that you had the belief that is holding you back? And ask, is it true? There's another belief that people have around creativity. They think, oh, I'm not creative. But everyone is creative. When you were a child, did you pick up paints? Did you start playing with Play-Doh? Did you do things that you loved to do that were creative? Did you play with dolls? Did you play with superheroes? Did you believe all was possible? Did you believe you could be a doctor, a president, a superhero, anything your heart's desire? That's your creative spirit. You were born with it. You were born to expand your creative mind. And if you stopped somewhere along the way, it was likely because of a belief that you picked up along the way. And when that happened, you had a chain around your life holding you back from fulfilling your creative potential. And your creative potential is still there. What do? You discharge the old belief that you're not creative and start the new belief. I have more than enough ideas. I have more than enough creativity. I have more than enough words inside of me to write another book. So many people believe that their past pain cannot be erased ever, especially if it's from their childhood. They think once they have that pain, that they are stuck with it for the rest of their lives. You hear this all the time. Maybe a teacher hurt you when you were in second grade and you thought, I'm not a good student. I'm not smart. Well, guess what? That teacher just had a very mean opinion, if you ask me. And what happened is that you put a chain around it and decided to keep it and hold you hostage. And so if you do the belief exercise as I shared with you, I promise you can leave the pain of your childhood and practically erase it. It will be a memory that you can look at as something, as an event in your life that changed you. but you no longer have to hold on to it as true. And so if you ask any writer if they had any revelations about their lives when they were writing their life story, oh my gosh, absolutely. All of the writers that I've helped write their story and guided them in publishing their books, they've all said to me it was a life-changing experience to go back and revisit their lives. And once they put it on the page, they became the observer. And somehow they could rest from the pain. And so I urge you to go back and look at those things that might be your chains, whether they're creative or, related to business. However those chains wounded you, start looking at them as something that is possible to break. And so ask yourself, from which belief did this chain come from? Look at your timeline. I always ask all of my coaching clients to write down their timeline, the major events in their lives that were life-changing. And these are the births, the deaths, the losses, the job loss, maybe the job that didn't happen, the financial ruin, maybe when you lost a house or a heartbreak from a friend, from a lover or a friend. All of these things are monumental moments in your life, a health loss, a health crisis, all of these things. And when you write those down on a piece of paper, you can start looking at the things that are still with you, the things that still hurt, the things that damage you, that you've carried with you throughout your adult life, and they've restricted you, they've held you back. And so when you use this timeline, you're going to ask yourself to do 5 things. You take something that has held you back, and you say, from which belief did this chain come from? Look at your timeline. I shared with you the chain around money. It came from my childhood. And so I started to believe that money was hard to get, that money could easily be lost, and that I wasn't necessarily deserving. I had to fear it. Where did it come from? From parents who survived the Great Depression. Their mothers and fathers survived the Great Depression, and then they were the children of that time period, and they grew up fearing money. It wasn't their fault. It was just the way it was then. It was a time. But you get to release that. So step 2 of that is, how has it worked for you? I shared with you that my growing up with parents of the Great Depression worked for me in that it made me very resourceful and very careful to save and not be frivolous with money. How did it work against me? I always had fear. I would wake up in the middle of the night and worry. But when someone told me that I would always have money because I always had ideas, that let me rest, and I realized it's true. Money rolls in and it rolls out. There are always times you're going to have more money than other times. But it's not forever. You have ideas. Number 3, look at where those beliefs originated and start working on them and asking, are they true? And if they're not true, then we're going to be discharging those beliefs. I want you to write a statement that has the opposite meaning of that belief. And for me, the one around the money is, all right, I'm going to read it to you. Where did I put it? Okay. My new belief is, I have more than enough money to have a wonderful life. Money comes easily to me. I will never run out of money because I will never run out of ideas. And that, if I repeat it over and over again, every time I start to feel that fear, I am breaking the chain that has held me since I was a child. And that's exactly how you discharge old beliefs and create new ones for your new life. And make no mistake, every day is a new life. Every day you get to wake up when the sun is shining, and you get a new opportunity to create new beliefs and new opportunities in your life. And those opportunities may be bigger and better than you ever imagined if you release those chains from the past and open yourself up to all is possible. How about that? So that is my broadcast today. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll be back tomorrow with a new topic, or maybe an extension of this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you. Bye-bye.